Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Business Builder. Today we have Cody Barton joining us. He's the master of the process and system and all that good stuff. Hey, welcome Cody.
Hey, happy to be here. Excited to hang out with you guys for a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you are like
likewise.
you are the master brain of lots of different communities, programs, etc. So we're excited to pick your brain today a little bit more to help people out in terms of building their community or their business.
Awesome.
So if you can like give audience like a high level overview of what's going on with your life, like what business you have going on, because I know you have different businesses happening at the same time.
Yeah, totally. I've been an entrepreneur for 13 years, and right now I've, like you said, I have a few different businesses. Essentially one of the way that I have my business set up is I have essentially an umbrella company called Manifest You, and what we do is basically manage the other companies that I own, or consult with as well. And so essentially, I have my leadership team there where it's myself, my CFO, my head of operations, our senior web dev, our finance team, our HR team. And so we have, that whole team that sits in this umbrella entity. And so whether it's companies that I'm investing in or companies that, through our brand Scale with Pros that we're consulting with and helping, helping grow, essentially the bread and butter of, what I focus on and do for the companies that I'm partnered with or companies that I'm consulting with is most of the time the things that people don't like to do, which are the company operations, the people systems. How do we build a hiring funnel to get a caliber talent in the door? How do we make sure that the financials are managed in a way that allows us to be profitable, but also to be able to pay the best talent possible, and also the overall leadership structure of how we grow a company where everyone's rowing in that same direction so that we can my big thing is, hey, we want to build self-managing high profit companies, and so that's what we do from the partnership standpoint or consulting through Scale with Pros. So that's kind of like 30,000 foot view of the things that I'm focusing on right now.
So pretty much you are investing in other people's business. You're also partnering with those business owner and you're also consulting for other business. Are you on the board of those people you are consulting for, or how does it work between you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, really just depends at what level someone's at. Typically businesses that are doing under $1 million a year in revenue are going to be, coming into like my Scale with Pros community and learning these skills through self-paced learning, and then through Q&As with myself directly and my team, my leadership team. And then if companies are doing over $1 million a year, that's where it makes sense, where we actually will come in and help these business owners fix their problems and their ops, their people, and their financial systems, and so that they can turn into that self-managing high profit company. So we typically in that over $1 million a year company range, we come in and help them out for a few months and kind of optimize some things, and then kind of like hand them back the keys. And it's like, hey, like, we made these changes, and, we want to teach people to fish, not to just give them a fish. We don't want to just do something for them and then they're like, lost after we work with them. We want them to be, confident and competent in the new things that we help them implement so that they can just go on and be even better business owners and have an even more successful business.
What
Yeah.
are what are some of the common um, the common things that you see those businesses are usually struggling with?
What revenue size? Because it depends on revenue size
The
typically.
million plus, the ones that you're more hands on in.
Yeah, so kind of that 1 million to 5 million a year range. Most common things that come up, they don't have org charts established with clear lines of accountability of who does the what in the business. They typically don't have clear, understanding of what all of the roles in their company do outside of the owner, where there's a clear job description that breaks down, what the role needs to do, clarity of role, clarity of goals for the role, clarity of KPIs for the role. There's not a lot of clarity in that area. And then the other thing that those companies typically don't have is, they don't usually have core values, mission, vision established. And if they do, they usually do it wrong, which most companies do in that range. They like come up with these things that they could put up on a wall, but they don't hire to those values. They don't manage to those values. They don't fire to those values. It's just kind of like a thing they throw up on the wall and talk about one time and never talk about again. And, one of the biggest things that cause companies to not be able to grow after they get to about $1 million, $2 million a year are those things, because your team starts to grow. When you're doing $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, your team goes from maybe a couple people to 5 to 10 to 15, maybe upwards of 20, depending on the type of business that they're in, home service, maybe even more. And so it becomes even more important that you have everyone rowing in the same direction. Everyone, when we look at core values in an organization, core values are really the behaviors that everyone needs to be indoctrinated into in the organization so that everyone is behaving the same way. The mission of the company is, okay, if we threw up a flag on top of a mountain, that's our mission that we're striving after over the next year, next couple of years. And our vision is that ultimate, hey, this will never reach this, but it's not really time bound or, number oriented. It's just, this is who we are striving to be as a company. And so having mission, vision, values in place, having clarity of what the organization looks like now, having clarity of where the organization needs to go, those are things, those are simple things that we come in and, help them do and make adjustments on, like org chart, for example. One of the things that people really struggle with in the in that growth stage and where a lot of businesses get stuck around $1 million or $2 million, is they build the team for for the people that they have on the bus versus put the seats out there that are required for the company to grow to whatever stage, and then go backfill based off of the team members that you do have. And so, for example, there is a cleaning company that we bought into earlier this year. And with that company, for example, they're like, oh, we want to go to, $5 million a year and, doing a little over $2 million a year. I'm like, perfect. So let's go build a $5 million a year company. And they're like, okay, well, what do you mean? Yeah, we just need to we need to sell more stuff. And I'm like, of course, we got to get more cleaning, but we need to know what our numbers are. So we built the org chart for where it is right now. And then we looked at, well, how many cleaners do we need to do the $2 million a year that we're doing now? How many cars do we need? How many supervisors do we have? Okay, well, if this is the right model that's profitable, well, what does it look like at $5 million a year? Okay, at $5 million a year, we need this many cleaners, we need this many supervisors, we need, this is what the operations team's going to look like, this is what our inventory team's going to look like. We literally build the business for what the revenue target is going to be, and then we just go about executing on those plans to getting it there. It's once we know what we're building, we can go and build the thing. And so I know I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but those are a few of the things. Usually financials are a disaster. Their bookkeeping wrong. They don't close their books. They don't look at their numbers correctly. Or if they do, they're looking at the wrong numbers. They offer different services or products. Some of them are profitable, some aren't. And so we have to, help them understand that, hey, you have 3 products. One of them's losing money. So let's either change how we're pricing this, or let's, not do that product anymore. Right. So there's a lot that we come into, but those are a few of the things. And I guess one final point that I typically see as well is that they have, not always, but oftentimes they have the wrong team members. One common thing that happens is when people are doing, say, a few $100,000 a year and they grow to a couple million a year or $1 million. They had team members that were the right people then that now are outgrown for where the business is now. And one of those areas, here's a great example, is, say, people like to throw out titles of roles that people call themselves CEOs and COOs and stuff like that when they're doing $100,000 a year in revenue. And it's dude, a COO salary is $220. Your company can't even support that one person's revenue. So they give out these titles. So here's the thing. It's someone will be doing a couple $100,000 a year. Their cousin knows how to use QuickBooks. So they call their cousin the CFO of the company. They, now they're the CFO. Now the company grows to $1 million, $2 million a year. They don't know how to run payroll. They don't know how to do payroll tax. They don't know how to actually, do financial forecasting. They don't know how to do cost of goods. They don't know how to do all those things and know what numbers are good versus bad. And then the company either goes through 2 things. it stunts the growth because now they have the person that was okay at a couple $100,000 a year that's no longer okay at 2 million a year, but that the leader in place is too scared to have a hard conversation and let that person go, or demote them to the role that they correctly probably should be, which is bookkeeper, and then bring in a controller or a staff accountant that could actually do the role that needs to be done for the company. So those are some definite challenges, and we come in and tell people, hey, like, let's not call people the wrong title, because the other thing people do is they Google their title and the salary that should be associated with it, and then they say I should be paid more money, even though I have no skills to do that title, but you gave it to me as the owner, so it's a disservice to them and to you. So there's my rant. But
Yeah, so like I want to quickly touch on the cleaning business you talk about. Let's say if they want to 5 times their revenue or whatever, what you are looking at is how many new cleaners we need to hire, etc. But another side is how we can 10x as opposed to 2x. So as opposed to just increasing the volume, maybe something we can think from the first principle and change the model or change the method. Like, what's your approach in terms of how can we do things differently to 10x, but also not disrupt the original business model that was working already?
Yeah, so I mean, my thing is, I'm a big fan of, let's build the perfect $100,000 a year business, then the perfect $1 million a year business, and the perfect $10 million a year business. And so the way that we do that is getting our numbers right small and then scaling them. Too often people are like, I'm doing 500 grand a year, I'm not making any money, but when I get to $1 million a year, I'll solve it by getting more revenue in the door. And so I'm a big fan of getting the unit level economics correct, which is like we know this number for per car in this business. So per car, we should be able to generate over 20 days, which there's 20 working days. One of the things that we have on the horizon is to start having them clean on weekends too, so we get more working days out of a month. But per car, right now, we know that an average car, when it's doing, performing correctly, should generate $750 a day or $18,000 a month. So if we know that, we could just do the math. And so that's how I don't look at anything of like, how do I just 10x? It's like, how do I make sure that the one unit, so for that business, it's one car, 2 cleaners, 20 working days in the month. How do I make sure that is profitable? And then we can go to 100 cars, because we just do that, and then we do it again, and then we do it again, and we just continue to add on. So it's just doing the math backwards of what that needs to look like. And so, in that business, it's like we need basically 28 cars to get to 5 million. So then the math, okay, what about 10x, going to 10 million? Well, we're going to need about 52 cars, 28, 56 cars. So that's what I'm a big fan of, because there's like so many things that we can attack in business. And it's like, I want to get the first thing right. It's like, let's, if you have a pest control business, you have one guy, one truck, a little, pest control, equipment and all that. It's like, I want to see what is the max amount of money that one guy, one truck, the equipment that he has can earn on a daily, monthly basis, and make sure that that's profitable. If so, let's get a second truck. Let's get a third truck. Let's get a fourth truck. And if at some point it starts to become unprofitable, it's typically because it's not, we're not generating the average daily or monthly that we should from each truck. And so, okay, well, then we need to go fix efficiencies. Are our routes poor? Are they, having to drive 45 minutes from one route to the next route? Can we bunch them together better? Like those types of things. So again, like the building like the biggest business, I always start with it's the unit level economics. Let's get it right small, and then we can scale it big.
Yeah, I also feel like if you start scaling small, right, every time you hit a certain threshold, you like learn a lot more. So like now the potential, like how can I get to there, might change. Like if I start off building a $100,000 a year business, then trying to scale out like to the 5 million or a million, right? Once I hit the 100 grand, I'm going to know a lot more than I did before I hit that. So now, even though I already have a shell for like what $1 million business might look like, that might change once I hit that threshold, right? So now, even if I scale it out, I'll know more, and I could also have more data to where I could see, hey, you know what, this marketing channel is working more than this one. This one's not really working that well. Let's put more of our attention to there. So now the way my $1 million business might look might change as I hit the threshold below it.
Totally. And And on that, on like marketing in general, like I'm a big fan of like sticking with one marketing channel, getting that one to be like really successful before like adding on. Cause that's another thing people do is they're like, I just want to scale and I need to have like, I need to do YouTube ads and Facebook ads and Google ads and TikTok ads and, direct mail. It's like, obviously depends on the business, which ones work better than others, but they try to like scale out all the different marketing channels. And it's like, dude, if you're not doing $1 million a year, you can be fine with most of the time you can get away with just one marketing channel to $1 million a year. Then you have the risk, obviously, of like being dependent on one channel, but it's much easier to get to that and then add on channels than it is to try to do 5 channels and manage all of that, track the KPIs, what's working, what's not. And it's just, there's some other thoughts, I guess, just on marketing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also harder to really figure out what does success look like for this marketing channel, or what are some baseline metrics, like if you're gonna hire out, that people should try to hit. Because if you're doing 5 of them, chances are you're not really gonna be tracking, the data as much as you would if you were just doing one and really refining one process. It's the same thing with like wholesalers when they're in 7 different markets when they first start off, and they're lending, and they're also buying stuff, and they're, you know what I mean? Like they're never gonna have success because they're just gonna get overwhelmed and not even know what is wrong with their business because there's too many things going on.
Totally. Simplicity, trying to keep things simple.
Mm-hmm.
So for your core C-suite team, like the CFO, CEO, whatever you mentioned, like what's the sequence for you to bring on each role? Which one do you bring on first?
As far as like if someone was going to build out their leadership team, that's a really hard question, really, just because it depends on who the business owner is. Like some people lean in one skill more than another. Like for example, if I was a CPA and I had experience being a controller or a CFO or something, like I may hire a CFO last because like that's already what my strong suit is. So I think it really is bringing on the skill that you need. That's the number one constraint for the business. I'm always a big fan of solve for the number one constraint. And how do we know what our number one constraint is? Well, if we ask ourselves, okay, if I had to double my business today, what is the number one constraint that's causing me to not be able to double the business? And there's only a few areas it's going to be. It's okay, well, am I getting enough leads for whatever my business is? If that is the main problem, well, I need to go get more leads. And that may be, okay, I need to hire an agent, media or marketing agency. Maybe that's I need to hire a media buyer. Maybe that's I need to hire a marketing manager, whatever that role might be to fix that. Or if it's, okay, well, I'm getting enough leads, but I'm not selling enough and I suck at being a sales manager. So I need to hire a sales manager so that they can increase the conversion so that they can help me solve this problem that'll help me double. And if it's operations, maybe I'm getting enough leads, I'm selling enough of my stuff, but then, when clients come in the door, everyone's pissed. They have a bad experience. They leave bad reviews. They cancel, they churn, whatever the business is. You don't get repeat customers. Okay, well, it means I need to hire an operations person that's going to go fix that. I need an ops coordinator, an ops manager that can come in and figure out why people are unhappy and make sure that they're happy and fulfilled on our service or product. And if it's, okay, well, I'm getting leads, I'm getting sales, I'm operationally doing a good job, but I feel like I'm broke all the time and I don't understand what's going on with my financials. Okay, maybe I need to hire a finance person because I just don't know how to manage the company's money in a way that allows me to grow it and would be able to double it because I don't know. Maybe I'm not charging enough for my product, but I don't know because I don't know how to do the financials. Maybe I'm not selling enough recurring with them, and I just don't know that that's the thing, which ops would fix it, but finance would call it out and be able to tell you that. So I always want to attack it from like, what is the constraint of the business that would cause the business to not be able to double today? There's going to be a bunch, right? It's like, well, I got to fix like 20 different things, but what's the number one constraint right now? And let's go attack that. And then once that one's fixed, then another one will break and it'll be the next constraint, which then you could attack that. But that's typically how I'll go about that. And then the same way with hires, it's like, where in our organization are we the most weak right now that's causing us not to be able to double? Okay, well, we don't have a really strong marketing team at this company, or we don't have a strong sales, or we don't have a strong ops. Let's go fix that. So I know that didn't exactly answer your question as far as like which to hire first, but it depends on who someone is and what stage their business is in and what the number one constraint is for their business.
Yeah, that totally
Yeah.
makes sense. To summarize, like a few major constraints you mentioned, marketing, number one. Second one is the sales, and then the operation, which is the delivery of the service or product, whatever.
Mhm.
The
Yep.
fourth is the financing. Anything else you can think of, the common concerns or constraints?
I try to keep it simple. Every business is marketing, sales, operations, finance. Yes, there's
Okay.
HR, and people and like training them and stuff, but like I just lump that into operations. Like I just
Yeah.
try to make things as simple as possible so we could like bucket it, because like we could really like go complicated and be like, well, marketing, but then there's tech, and then there's HR, and then there's leadership, and then it's like let's just look at four areas of business is what I always look at.
So
I
if
like that a lot
there is a lack
because
of, sorry, go ahead, John.
yeah, I was gonna say I like that a lot because like as you're trying to see, hey, what's going on in my business? Where's the bottleneck? Instead of trying to think of all of these different avenues, like, oh well, is it the initial conversation that we're having with the agent? Is it that you could just break it down? All right, how are my leads in marketing? Do I have a problem with that? No, not really. Okay, how's my sales and my dispositions? Well, okay, so sales I have these specific issues. Okay, how's my all right? So it's really just a sales problem right now that I have, and I could spend more of my time focusing on that, and it makes it a lot easier, I think, for you to really start pinpointing where in the business you're hurting.
Totally, and that's what we have to go solve for. And I think that's another thing people try to do is they're trying to solve 17 problems in their business at the same time, because we all have problems. Like every one of my businesses have problems. There's pain points and things that are bothering me about the way that certain things operate in all departments at our companies.
Yeah.
It just is what it is, and welcome to business. It'll always be that way. I've never once felt like, oh, our business runs perfectly. It's like there's always an area to fix, right? But it's what is the number one constraint? And a lot of times people, they try to fix 17 things at a time, so it takes them a year to make any progress because they're trying to fix everything, and you can't get any focused effort on that. It's like if you hold a magnifying glass and you have the sun and you have it focused in on one area, you can burn a hole through it. But if you're like moving around the the magnifying glass and the sun's hitting it, like nothing happens. Like you can't even heat up anything. And so you have to like get laser focused to fix the right thing at the right time so that you can grow.
So a follow-up question on that. Let's say if it's people's problem, like you don't have certain good people for a certain role. Let's say if it's a sales or if it's operation, you just basically put that role or the person under a particular constraints you mentioned, like under those one of those four. So let's say if it's you don't have enough salespeople, then that's a sales problem. If you don't have the good system, then it's the operation problem. So that's how you like connect the people and each of the concern you mentioned. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. So it's like, if we're like, okay, our constraint's marketing. Why is that? Let's talk about it. Okay, well, we're not getting enough leads. Well, who's in charge of getting enough leads? Hey, John, or, hey, Susie, hey, you're supposed to get, enough leads, or hey, Bill, like whoever, whatever the person's name is, like you're supposed to be getting enough leads. What's causing us from not being able to get, we need, 50 leads a week. How do we fix that? How can I help support you? And we want, I'm a big fan like of coaching people up before coaching them out. So I want to coach someone up to be more successful before I want to just like replace them. I'm just a big people person in that way. But
Same.
that's typically that's how we dive into it. The flag is raised of marketing is the problem. Okay, well, if we don't have enough leads, who's accountable for getting those leads? Okay, let's talk to that person and see what can we do to help support them. Do they even know what enough leads is? Like if we, that's a lot of times it too. It's like someone's like, I'm not getting enough leads in the business, and then I'm like, when, how many leads do you need? I'm like, and they're like, more, and I'm like, well, how many is more? Like, do you know, like how many leads do you need to get how many deals? And does your marketing agency or person know your lead target to hit your numbers? I had a call this morning. I have an agency that's helping me do some stuff with Scale with Pros right now. And, this is a conversation with them. I'm like, everything is reverse engineering it. It's like, okay, I want to get this many sales into our high ticket a month with Scale with Pros. And the conversation wasn't like, I just need more leads. It was, if I want this many sales a month, I need to generate this many leads a month. And out of those leads, there's going to be this percentage of them that we're going to estimate will book a call. Of those that book a call, we'll estimate that, let's call it 70% will show up for the call. And of those 70% that show up for a call, we're going to estimate 25% of them actually buy our thing. And if with knowing all of those things, Now how many leads do we need? Okay, well, we need to make sure that we're getting this many leads. And so that's how I'll kind of like dive into that area. It's like marketing's the problem. Okay, if that's the problem, what does it need to be? What is it? What's the gap? Who's accountable for it? How do we support them? Coach them up, coach them out, hire an agency, get consulting, like whatever that thing is that's going to get us to that target. And it's like, okay, now that's fixed. All right, now we're not closing at 25%. What's going on in sales? How many times are we doing call reviews? How often are they doing role play set? It's like, then we just dive into the next constraint.
Yeah. And also like that when you have that kind of people focused approach first, it could also show you like, hey, do we have a good system in place right now, or is there a system inefficiency, and that's what we got to fix? Maybe it's not the person, maybe it's us, and it's our system. So it makes you reflect back on how are we currently doing it? Is this the best way? And if the answer to that is yes, then it's the person.
Totally.
Yeah, cool. So also want to touch a little bit more on the wholesaling business because that's our business for now. I feel like it's such a unique business model. It's different from like the traditional providing a service or product because you don't really have that like delivery stage in terms of delivering an experience or whatever. It's more like marketing and sales on both sides, on ag and on dispo.
Yeah.
So like how do you compare some of the takeaways from other traditional business to the wholesale business as lessons we can learn?
Yeah, so here's a question, because I would argue that there is the delivery on the dispo. Have you ever bought a deal from someone that was a total jackwagon and they were a disaster to work with, and their title agent was an idiot? They sucked at communication. They didn't, communicate that the, seller was leaving a bunch of crap in their house, and you just ended up with this house with a bunch of stuff. Has that ever happened? I don't know. That's happened to us.
It's happened to us when we work with other wholesalers at times.
Yeah. So the reason I'm bringing that up is just on the point of delivery. Like, you can, when you're dispoing a deal, provide a great experience. Like, there are certain people when I'd buy fix and flips from where I didn't have to worry about anything because I knew exactly what they told me was exactly what I'm getting. The house will be vacant. It will close by this date. The seller isn't a psychopath. They will vacate on the date that they promised, and that, there's clarity there of what it looks like. All of those things. And then there are certain people, if they sent me a deal, I would have to ask them like 72 questions to make sure how I'm not going to get screwed on this deal because they're, a ding dong and their title agent's a ding dong and I don't know what they're doing and they're just a super, non-professional. So I do think there is that part of delivery. Like when you have a buyer where, you make it easy for them, you communicate really well, you make sure you have a phenomenal title rep that's really, communicates, answers their questions, schedules them on time, asks for the wire on time, doesn't, wait until last minute to then like blow up the deal, piss off the seller, piss off the buyer. It's like all of those things are part of that delivery stage of, wholesaling. And you guys have experienced it. I know, that's something I've experienced is like you have good people that sell you deals and then people that you're like, this person, is going to be a pain. Like, once they send me the assignment, like they don't respond for like a week sometimes. We're trying to get access and they're like not communicating, or they send me to the house. They didn't tell the seller's mad. And they're like, who's this person at my house? Like those are all parts of delivery and operations and fulfillment.
That's a very interesting perspective of looking at it. I've never thought about it that way because like for wholesaling, I was thinking operation is more like in-house operation, like between different team, department, workflow, system, all that kind of thing. But I think what you said makes sense because if, let's say we assign a deal and we cannot close on it, it's not a salesperson problem because we assign it. The act is good, the dispo is good. It's more so operation. So now we can break it down, see how we can make the operation more efficient so we can save the salespeople's time as well. So I guess question for you is, usually we have the ag and dispo in charge of the matters on their side. So if it's a conversation with the seller or with the buyer, they kind of handle that part of the problem solving process. But if it's a process or it's a operation side of the issue, do you think we should have a third person handling the operation as opposed to having the ag and sales managing their own problems?
So for me, like I want my salesperson to be selling. I don't want them doing admin. I don't want them dealing with anything. I want them on the phone, getting another sale. So I would try to take off as much as I can from a salesperson, because like every hour they spend not selling something is every hour they spend not selling something and getting a deal, right? So I would, and so like, and some of these lessons in the different businesses that we're in, it's like, I want there to be a baton handoff. It's like, if I'm, obviously, if there needs to be like a price drop or something in a deal, bring the act person back in and like, have them price drop the deal. But I would like to see a process where it's like they get the sale made and then they edify the crap out of the next person in the process. Like if the dispo is also the TC and running it to close, it's like, and Susie, so excited, we were able to get this deal done, and I just wanted to let you know what to expect next. You're going to be receiving an email from Janet on my team. She's going to be, letting you know all the information about the title company. She will now be your point of contact going forward. And you're going to, let me tell you this, you're going to love Janet. She's super organized. She keeps the wheels turning on this thing. And, she is going to be the one with all of the updated information. So if you try to call me, I'm out helping other homeowners with their home issues, just like I'm helping you with yours right now. So you're going to need to be reaching out to Janet going forward, and you're going to actually be receiving a call from Janet by the end of the day today and that email. So I'm so excited for you. I'm glad we're able to get this done. And Janet's number is this, if you want to write it down, or, make sure to keep an eye out for that. And then Janet or Dispo, TC, whoever that is, calls, hey, Susie, saw that you had worked with John, and, just wanted to introduce myself. So for any issues that you might have from today through closing, any questions that you might have, myself and our title rep, Danielle, we're the main points of contact for any of those types of questions, so that we can make sure this is a smooth process and everything goes really easy for you through the rest of this process. So, I'm your main point of contact, but obviously you have, the title rep that'll be reaching out to you for some information, so that we can make sure to get you to, XYZ place, which is where they're wanting to move to after they sell the home, on time, by us communicating well with you and you communicating well with us. I am removing that salesperson out of it and forcing them to talk to the rest of the team.
That's awesome. So good. That's like two golden nuggets I want to point out. The first one is I'm kind of like self-reflecting as we're talking about the whole process, which is the handoff person need to give clear expectation for the person who is like receiving that. So when the handoff person come up, pick it up from wherever it's left off of, it's going to be a smooth transition. And for our example is we have a third party TC person. And I always want her to call buyers to, make the transaction moving forward and all that. The buyers always come back to me, like every single time, asking me this, asking me that. And I was thinking, okay, maybe she should be more proactive. But from what you said is, I did a bad job of giving them an expectation. Hey, from here going forward, reach out to her, not me. So definitely lessons learned on my side. And yeah, the second thing is you mentioned have like a handoff process and have other people in charge of the operation and have salesperson to just be on the phone. I think that kind of like reconfirmed the decision me and John come to, which is we want to hire like a firefighter to putting off all the fire solving problems, unless it's price reduction and all that. Then we revert back to core dispo. But other than that, we want to have like a firefighter. We call it solutionist to solve all those problems. And so what we think is that person is better in-house than having a third-party person, is because they can have more cohesive working relationship with our team and talk with the buyer seller more directly. So what's your thoughts on that?
So a couple of the things. So I guess it's like, what is that actual role doing? Like if it's like, what is the role doing that a TC wouldn't do? Or like, I don't know if there's like, whoever's in charge of operations for the business, whether that's you or John, that one of you wouldn't be doing. Like, what's the purpose? What's the problem? I'm a big fan of like, what is the problem that a role is actually solving for the business? And, because that's how we'll come up with like a job description. Like if you wrote out, 3 to 5 key responsibilities that role is accountable for, it's like, what are the problems that they're actually solving? And I would also give them another title. I would call them like ops coordinator or something, if they're supposed to like from front to back, just make sure everything's organized and like running smoothly. So I guess that would be kind of just a question is like, what are the problems that role is solving? That maybe a TC wouldn't solve if a TC is supposed to like take the paperwork start to finish and like help solve title issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can talk about it, and John, you can chime in if you want to add something. So I think for the third party TC we have right now, it's more um, like it's not very proactive, and it's only just about paperwork. It's not
Oh, I got it.
okay. When things happen, let me go fix it. But how do I fix it? Let me ask John and Helena first, and then I go ahead and fix it.
Yeah.
So the operation person you mentioned is actually me and John, but we have the plan of delegating and working on the business and not putting out fires ourselves. That's why we feel like, okay, an in-house person maybe on like bonus or commission sort of, having the more ownership of solving the problem, not just asking question, deliver message, and writing up the paperwork. That's the whole intention.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
and
So
they're
maybe
also part of the team, so they're going to be engulfed in like the team chat and everything. So they'll be pinging back and forth. They'll already know who they're talking to. Like when it's third party, it's kind of like, all right, let me go make a side chat for this new person. Oh, I hired a new act. They just locked up a contract. Let me put them in a side chat together, them and the TC. But and there's a lot of times where they're out of the loop because one is the handoff process. We don't have the best handoff process, right? Which we just figured out on this podcast. So people still reach back out to us. And then there are times where the TC's in the dark because there was something that went on internally and we have so much going on that we sometimes forget to update them. So it's like something like that.
So you maybe even just want to hire an ops coordinator that's your TC as well. Like they do TC and everything else.
Right.
And then you take the third party person out of it. So, because then it's just like, well, if we're already going to be getting someone that helps solve these problems, why not just have that person also be running the files and have them be able to solve all of it? And then obviously you're going to have a fixed cost on this person if they're going to be on, salary plus maybe like a bonus per closed file or something. But that might just make it run smoother for sure. But yeah, a lot in the firefighting is like getting the right person. Like even if you guys, and for those listening, is like using Lucidchart or Miro and like do like every step of your entire process, like a little box of like contract signed. And then it's like, who's under that box? Who's accountable for making sure contract's signed? Okay. Who's updating next? Like literally every step of the process until like money comes in the bank on the end of like who does what. And so then you could have that, process map of exactly what's happening. So then when you bring in this ops coordinator, you can just show them, here's the entire start to finish, front to back of how a deal is done at our company. And their name goes under all of the areas where they're supposed to be accountable for touching it.
Yeah, I love it. That's a better name.
Chart,
ops
right?
coordinator. That's a lot better name. That's solution.
Yeah. It's what you're trying to have them do is create solutions and solve problems. And like one of our core values at our company is we bring solutions before problems. So it's like that is literally one of our core values. But and the reason I say ops coordinator is like this doesn't sound like a person that needs to like run the entire department, manage the whole team and all of that. And an ops coordinator's remotely you're going to be, if you're paying them salary, somewhere between like 60 to 70 grand a year versus like an ops manager is going to be 85 to upwards of 100. If you have someone that's actually good, someone just comes in at the title and they're like a ding dong, like they'll take, 20 grand a year, but they don't know what they're doing. So you just want to like balance that out.
So follow-up question on that. So let's say the op coordinator, they work with the ag and dispo person closely to solve problems. And when it comes to making a decision, do you think the op coordinator needs to have the authority in terms of decide what's the right thing to do here? If
Absolutely.
me and John can make a decision.
If you don't want to be the one to take the monkey on your back, there's a great book called The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. And it's like, if you don't give them the authority, here's what they're going to do. They're going to walk into your office virtually or whatever. And like, here's my monkey. Can you solve my monkey for me? Or I'm going to leave this monkey here for you to solve, instead of like, no, you brought your monkey here. Tell me solutions you think that should be done. I'll coach you to what solution I think makes the most sense. But you go handle your own monkey. Keep that monkey on your back. I don't want it. And you definitely want to give the authority, but you also have to give direction on, it's like, okay, if do they need to ask for permission if it's like a $50 problem? Do they need to ask permission if it's $1,000? Like, there's different team members on, at our company. I'm like, if there's ever something that's like costs less than $150 to solve, do not bother me or anyone on the team. Just approve it. Like, just do it. And then like my executive assistant, like, she, anything that's like under 10 grand, like she's just has the authority to just make decisions and just do. And like, don't bring it to me. But it's like, you build trust first, right? Like, you don't just like give them the keys to the castle and they're like, all right, good luck. Hopefully, you make good decisions. It's like, you start small. It's like, hey, anytime these situations come up and it's under a couple $100 thing, just solve it. And don't, I'm on vacation. Like, don't bother me for a $200 decision. Like, just make the decision. And then if you think that they made the wrong one, then coach them to that and then have them, put it in a process of, okay, well, this is how I should have handled it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, you have to give those, levels of, authority and give clear communication of what you want for the outcome to be, and then empower them to make those decisions. Because the more you empower your team, the less they come to you for stuff. And me, again, my whole thing, build high profit, self-managing company. How do you have a self-managing company? You have lots of people that are very talented and that they have the authority to make decisions that they think are the right decisions for their role, for their department, for their area of business, and that they have clear outcomes of what they're accountable for in the organization. So I manage on outcomes that they're accomplishing, not on micromanaged tasks. And I don't want to micromanage, because then I can't live my life. The way I want to live my life is, if I go on vacation for 2 weeks, I don't want to have to be bothered by anything. Like, I just want to do my thing and check in if I want to, or if I get an excited idea, I can check in, but not, oh, I have to solve this issue. It's like, why should you have to solve an issue that another competent human being can solve, multiple times? Like, if it's something they've never done and you have to coach them to it, then after they've after you've coached them to it, now they should, document the way it should be solved, and you should never have to solve it again. That's another thing within our company is, I'm like, we have non-learners and learners, and we only allow learners to stay in our company. If they're a non-learner, and I, look at a non-learner as someone that if you have to coach them to the same thing more than a couple of times, they're a non-learner. Like, they need, like, learn, like, take the information. You've went through this a couple times. Like, you're just a non-learner at that point, and you're not going to stay at our company. And so, that's just one of the things. And that's like kind of like a lingo around here. It's like, oh, that person was a non-learner, that's why they didn't stay here.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense. From your experience, like from 1 million to 10 million, from 10 million to 100 million, what are like the bottleneck or the issue they need to break through to be able to accomplish the next stage of the revenue or profit?
There's a lot there, but I mean, first, I haven't built a $100 million company. The most we've done was 37 million last year between the companies. So like, that's as much experience as I have, to be able to teach to. But the bottlenecks in growth, honestly, after like 5 million a year, is the same thing over and over again. It's strategic planning, hiring the right people to then execute on the results in the business. Their business gets significantly easier when you're over 5 million a year. People think that it's like a lot more work or there's a lot more to do, but you actually get a lot more free time and you make a lot more money, which is the funny thing. And why is that? Well, when you're only doing $1 million a year or a couple million a year, you're not generating enough revenue to go pay like the badass talent that you really want. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Like my CFO, dude, he is a CPA. He's a doctorate of finance and accounting. Like, this dude is smart. Like, he is like just, so smart. My head of operations, worked on some of the launch teams for Uber when they were launching their Uber Eats, division. Like, and she worked in, strategy for Indeed before. And like, these are companies.
You're saying they won't take a 2K base per month and a 3% commission?
That is what I'm saying. So the talent pool just opens up and gets better and better. And so that's where it's like, you get to like $4 or $5 million a year and more. It's like, you can go pay a 120K salary, 150K salary, a 200K salary. And it's like, yeah, it's expensive, but like, they can literally run entire departments of the company and like do everything from strategy to implementation to management and like run it. And so it gets, so it's like, as far as I have learned, like from, that 5 upwards to what we're doing now, is it's strategic planning. So it's like having quarterly planning, having, well-run annual planning, having well-run weekly meetings. It's like the entire meeting cadence of the company and how we do our planning. Planning is that's a big part. And then the other part is the people side, which is, hiring and firing and managing according to the mission of the company, the vision of the company, the core values of the company, and consistently talking about those to everyone in the organization. And that is it. Like from 5 million to like where we did 37 last year, those are the only things that are focused on. It's those areas, because then it's you're leading people, you're driving results through others. Like when you're doing 5 million plus, like you're not really doing anything anymore. You are leading people that are managing the people doing the things. And so you have to become it's the leadership lid at that point, is raising the leadership lid from where you are to where you want to go. And that is what then becomes the bottleneck after those stages is, you have to be a phenomenal leader, and you have to be able to lead things that you don't know anything about. Like I don't know how to do financial forecasting. I don't know how to do like I don't know anything about technology. I'm terrible. Like I have to, like all of my video equipment and stuff here, I have no idea how any of this stuff works, but my team set it up, and I like press this button and I press another button over here, and I don't touch anything else, but they know how it works. And like, if something's not like, I'm like, the screen's black, I don't know what's going on. It's like, I can go ask, Sean on our team, like, hey Sean, like, can you come get the thing working again? Like you don't need to, like, as the business scales, it's like you need to be better at leading people and managing to outcomes and departments than you do about doing the things anymore. Because a lot of times people think I just need to know more. Like, yes, you do when it's like you're under $1 million, like you need to know what the heck you're doing in like the specific area, get to $1 million, then you start hiring people. And, I don't know how to run ads. And that's where, again, like I have this agency that's helping with ads. I have no idea how to do Facebook ads. I don't know, like I know a pixel is important. It needs to go on your website for tracking, but I don't know how you install a pixel. I don't know what really it does besides it tracks data. And I know that I need to generate X amount of revenue. And then I need to know, okay, well, how many leads is that then? The calls, the sale, it's like the conversions and all of that. So it's like, what is the outcome that I want? Hire the best people that I can for that specific department, manage them, coach them up. And then if they can't do the job, then I need to coach them out and hire someone else that can do it and create the result. Or I need to, look at like what else, like what could be causing them. Maybe there's a roadblock that they can't work through, and I need to coach them on how to work through the roadblock. Because as a business gets bigger, it's easier. The people are so much more talented that you don't have to like sit there and like, hey, this is a cup. A lid goes on top of the cup. And that is how, you keep your drink from spilling. Like when you hire people that are just so entry level sometimes, and I don't want to say this is entry level because there's like amazing individual contributors that work at our companies, but people that just have really not a lot of great professional experience and life skills, like you have to literally babysit them. You're like, I didn't know I had to tell you to tie your shoes when you got up this morning. I didn't know that I had to tell you that brushing your teeth every day is a good idea. Like it's just like there's certain things that like the less experience someone has, like professionally and in leadership and things, the more you have to tell them what to do. Like I can go to, my CFO, Ben, and I can say, Ben, there's something broken in the financials in this department. I don't know what it is, but can you find out? And then can you give the recommendation of the plan to fix it? And I could give that to him, and then he can come back and say, here are the things that I'm seeing that are going on. Here are the 3 recommendations that I would suggest that we, as a course of action. And I'm like, I like option 2. Let's do that. Okay. Talk to the team about it and have them do it. Like the more talented you have, it's like, my head of ops too, Adriana, it's like, I'm like, oh, like we need to like create this stuff. And like, or like when we, we're transitioning, we're in Kajabi over to school. I'm like, can you just make sure everything looks good and like ends up in school from what's in Kajabi? And like, there's all the things that we need in there for it to be, to be great as a minimum viable product. and then I don't have to check in. I don't have to be like, oh, did you spell the words right on the titles? Did you bring all the videos, or did you forget videos? It's like, I don't like, the less skilled someone is, the more you have to do that, and you have to micromanage because they're not that skilled. Versus when you have the talent that's amazing, you could just say, fix this, and then they just go fix it. You don't have to coach them on how to fix it. It's like, that's why you hire a professional. It's like if I went to my doctor and said, hey, I don't feel good, and they're like, well, what do you think it is? I'm like, I don't know. That's why I'm at the freaking doctor's office. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm paying for this time. So that's what changes and becomes the bottlenecks as the growth is managing the team and leadership at that point.
Yeah. Do you think it's like important to hire an acquisition person? No, talent acquisition person different from like HR department? And if so, when do you think it's the time to bring on that talent act person?
So for us, we just have an HR manager that hires for all of our companies. So like that one role is able to do all of it. So like from hiring to also, managing the HR functions. So, I mean, really, like, HR, like the actual like legalities of things kind of juggles between like, the HR department and finance, because there's like benefits and payroll things that, are kind of inclusive on that. But it depends on the business. Like, for example, we have, I have a company that we're consulting for, and they're a roofing company, and they need to hire, typically 10 to 15 new salespeople because they're door knockers, and they churn out in like 60 days because they're door knockers, and that's just what door knockers do. So they have a recruiter that works full time for them because they need to hire, X amount of new salespeople every single month. So they need to be doing, having ads running every day. They need to be interviewing, multiple times a week. They need to be doing onboardings, multiple times a month. So like that type of business requires that. But let's say, for example, it's like a CPA firm and they're doing $1 million a year. They just need 3 CPAs to do the stuff. Like they don't need a talent acquisition person because it's the quantity of the amount of talent that you're having to bring in is when I think it starts to matter more. But if you train like hiring managers or managers of the departments like how to do interviews, like you can get away with that for a while. Like I wouldn't have an HR manager if part of my business wasn't consulting for companies and their HR. Like that's like otherwise I would just teach our hiring managers how to hire really well, and then I would have my CFO that knows a lot of the laws, and I would just consult with attorneys to make sure that we have the things in place from the HR side. But otherwise I wouldn't spend the money on it for a while. I know that didn't perfectly answer that, but hopefully maybe give some idea.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we're coming to the end of the podcast where we ask all of our guests 3 questions. So I'll start from the first one. John, you can fire off the second and third one. So the first one is, what do you do consistently or on a regular basis to, sharpen your mind to make sure you are in a good mindset?
A few things. So, one is exercising. I've for years, like I've worked out with a trainer where I do weights 3 days a week. I do cardio 3 days a week. So, exercising on a consistent basis, getting consistent sleep. I go to bed pretty much the same time every day, around 9:30. And then I get up around 5:30 every day. So it's like consistent sleep schedule so that I feel good every day. Some people, maybe other people have different preferences. That's just where I feel the best is that those time frames. And then, and that's like weekends too. Like I just naturally wake up at that time and naturally want to go to bed at that time. So those are, like the core of just feeling good. And then I would say, and then diet comes into that too. I do like my coffee, but, having a consistent diet of like healthy food, and I have like meal prepped food for lunches every day. And, so like eating, healthy to keep energy levels good is important. And then I have, I have 2 business coaches. I have one that named Adam Coffey. He sold an HVAC company for over $1 billion. And so he teaches me a lot of these, and he's the one that taught me the unit level economics, thing of like, he's like, stop worrying about building this big company, Cody. He's like, build the perfect $100,000 company and then do that 100 times. And that's how you build, a multi-million dollar, $1 billion company. And so I was like, okay, I got it. So, that's, I coached with him, and then I have another coach. His name is Jeff Mask, and he grew the executive team at Infusionsoft when they were at 2 million a year to over 100 million a year. I've been coaching with him for 2 years. So like I have good people in my corner that I'm coaching with that keep me, improving and being better. And when like I have reached a problem that I don't know how to solve, like I have my phone where I could just message one of these guys and get solutions to problems that I don't know how to solve. And so from the coaching standpoint, and then masterminds, events, like keep you, sharp and learning and, always learning new skills. I read a lot. I mean, every week, like I may read the same book, over and over again. Like there's one book that I've been reading for the last 2 weeks that I've listened to the audio already twice. I've read the physical book once. And, as I'm just trying to learn maybe a new skill or trying to sharpen up some area. So I think just a mix of those things are all important and are helpful. But yeah, those are the things that keep me on track for sure.
What is that name of that book?
Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson. It's like one of the OG books, from Russell. And really, why am I reading that? Well, I have this group called Scale with Pros where we have our membership community and we have our high ticket. And so I'm trying to learn all of the ways that I can increase traffic into the funnel for how we're growing the community and growing the our high ticket consulting services. So I want to, where I'm not going to execute on those things as far as like, I'm not going to do it. I want to know strategies so then I can then go and, assign that to someone else to do.
Yeah. Would it be possible, like one day you have a public book list you can share with people so we can all?
I have a
You
book.
have?
You have a book.
Where is it? Where can we get it?
I'll send you guys the link. A lot of people have asked me, and I like literally put this like ugly spreadsheet together of just like books and why I like them. So I do have one.
Enough. That's exactly what we need.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'll share it with you guys, and you guys put it in the show notes too if you want.
I just started listening to books. I was reading them like physical, and I was like, this is taking me way too long to like. There's so many books I want to like read, and now I just started listening, so I could do a book a week, which is just so much better.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So
I think
the next question.
Second question also answered already in terms of reading books, but you can ask again.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll ask you just in case there's a different answer. There was something else I was going to ask too, but I totally brain farted on it. So the next question, Cody, is I know you said you like to do a lot of reading, right? And you have your 2 business coaches, but what else do you do consistently each day to continue on the path of progress in far as like your industry, right? To stay ahead of the game and keep innovating.
I mean, really, those are the biggest things. It's like my coaches, the books that I'm reading, the podcasts I'm listening to, and just every day, like I have a YouTube video on it called Smart Day, Smart Week, but just my process of like doing my planning every day and then doing my planning and review every week. So that's something that I've done for 8+ years now. And that's just like a daily routine, weekly routine of mine that helps me identify gaps daily, weekly, and then addressing those every day and every week. So those are just some of the habits that have been helpful. I don't necessarily worry about like being ahead of competition or doing anything. I'm just like, what are my numbers? What am I doing? How can I make it better? And that's all I really focus on. I don't really focus on what anyone else is doing in that regard.
That's great.
I like the Smart Day, Smart Week. That's kind of just like have you ever heard of David Allen's like Get Things Done book? Or
I have heard of it. I haven't read it.
Okay, is it kind of like that where it's like you just go through your week review and then you go like backtrack and then forward and you just figure out, hey, what am I going to do for the week? What are my priorities?
Yeah, so I mean, it'd probably take me like 10 minutes to go through all of it, but it's essentially daily, identifying like reviewing KPIs, reviewing wins from the previous day, going through, and again that video goes through it in more detail. But then it's like for the day, what are the top 3 to 5 action items for that day that need to be done? Yes, there's 17 things that need to be done, but what are the 3 to 5 that make the most difference today? And then the Smart Week is a longer review where I spend 30 to 45 minutes. Reviewing the previous week, what went well, what are the wins that I could celebrate? What were my KPIs that I'm tracking for that previous week? Did I hit them? If I didn't, why not? How am I going to make sure that they get hit the next week? On a scale of 1 to 10, how is the last week? If it's not a 10, what must be true this upcoming week to make sure that it's going to be a 10 for that upcoming week? What are my quarterly goals? Am I on track? If I'm not, what do I need to do this week to get back on track? And I have some other questions I go through as well, but those are just like some bullet points.
I'll probably want to watch that video later tonight anyway. And then the last question is for any of the new entrepreneurs that want to start building a business or in the process of building something and they want to build a large business. What is your number one advice for them?
So number one advice is build the business that you want for the lifestyle that you want to have. I think a lot of times people get caught up, myself included. I've done this. Where we're like, I just want to do this much revenue or this, that, it's like, I am a big fan of build the business that creates the financial freedom you're looking for, that creates the time freedom that you're looking for, and, creates the lifestyle that you want. For me, I require that any businesses that I'm going to be involved in, I need to be able to have time freedom. I need to be able to create the financial results that I'm looking for to support the lifestyle that I want to live. I need to be able to have location freedom. So I need to be able to travel when I want to travel. And I need to be able to, be in office, like I'm at our actual physical office right now, or working from home if I feel like it. Like I need to have those freedom and flexibilities for me to want to build the thing that I'm building. Because I've gotten, I've definitely went down this and made the mistakes of just like building for the sake of building and then having a business that didn't create the lifestyle that I wanted, which then it's like, what's the point? So I'm very, very sensitive to like, I'm only building the way that I want, that's going to create the peace that I want, the financial situation I want, the lifestyle that I want. Because it's like build a business that serves you, not the other way around. It sounds selfish, but it's like you will build a better business and have a better life, which then in turn it should cause you to be able to be a better leader for your team if you're building the life you want versus hating what you built.
Yeah, for sure. Always keeping why in mind, what is your end goal, and being intentional with each step, as opposed to just building for the sake of building and getting our heads down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Started.
That was great. Yeah, that was so much information in there. That was amazing. A lot that I wrote down. That's the most I think I wrote down. My head was constantly down. But for anybody, Cody, that wants to, join Scale with Pros or look into coaching with you, like how do they go about that?
People could just go to scalewithprosmasteryprogram.com. Could check that out. And otherwise, can follow me on Instagram as well, at Cody Barton Official. Post pretty actively on there, on my feed and on stories as well, where I talk about stuff I'm doing. But those are probably the main two places.
We'll also put the link for joining the school community in our show notes.
Yeah, along with that the Perfect Day, Perfect Week video from Cody and maybe his book list.
Yeah, right. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Cody, so much for coming here and spend time with us. It's been a pleasure having you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it was fun hanging out, guys.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome.